There are countless untold personal stories of Austrian and Italian soldiers passing just a few meters away from each other, almost brushing shoulders. The battle for Puster Valley was one of the most hard fought, involving very close combat. The last remains of the farthest outpost of Italian infantry lie at the foot of Mount Crystal, in Fonda Valley. A century later, these trenches are overgrown and hidden deep in the forests, wholly unknown to tourists. British military archaeologists of the Durand Group, Andy Hawkins and Julia Robertson, point out and identify dozens of moss-covered, 100-year-old artifacts. These are the remains of a camp.
Got a rubbish dump of food tins over here, Andy.
Here are shelters or deposits.
A natural shelter.
None at all. I mean, they've made use of every conceivable way of keeping dry, keeping warm, and protecting themselves from
just putting
enemy
supplies
fire.
in there, keeping the supplies dry.
Yeah.
You can see parts of artillery shells.
See, they're made of brass. You get them? Okay.
And here is a monument built by the soldiers themselves.
53rd Regimento of the infantry, and they were part of the 6th company.
Company?
Yeah. And then beneath that,
From these posts, Italian troops could easily advance to take the Puster Valley. The only obstacle standing in their way was the overhanging Monte Piana.
Austrian defences were mainly concentrated in strategic locations such as railway hubs. This was because the Puster Valley represented a vital lifeline to the entire Trentino front, so that was heavily defended along with the Val di Landro, with Monte Piana in the Sesto Valley.
Italians and Austrians faced off for 3 years on the broad summit plateau. Austrian troops, however, were able to defend the entrance to the strategic valley to the bitter end, thanks to artillery that had been placed on nearby Mount Rudo, known to the Austrians as Raukopfel. This and other hotspots in these mountains tell the story of why the conquest of the peaks and the Great War in the Alps was so strategically important. Even more effective military tactics were employed up the pass of Falzarego. A few hundred meters from the pass sits the remains of the Austrian fort called Sas di Stria. From here, there was a clear view of Col di Lana, the next destination. The battles for Col di Lana and Mount Sief were among the bloodiest of the whole Dolomite front. Col di Lana's strategic location at the intersection of several valleys made it a perfect observatory for the Austrian artillery. From there, they could pound both the front lines and the Italian rear flank, creating havoc in the supply lines and troop movements of the Italians. In this breathtaking landscape, the Italian infantry and Austrian Kaiserjäger clashed mercilessly. On steep slopes, the attacking Italians were exposed to devastating machine gun fire, while the Austrians had to desperately hold a defensive position that, if lost, would change the course of the war.
And what was the purpose of the attack? What was their objective?
The objective was to conquer Col di Lana,
Okay.
on top of Col di Lana, because it was a strategical position for this valley and the next valley called Valbadia.
Okay.
Yeah.
There were huge casualties in the Battle of Col di Lana. Austrians renamed the peak Blutenberg. Blood Mountain. The man who led the Italian attack was none other than Peppino Garibaldi, grandson of one of the architects of the unification of Italy, Giuseppe Garibaldi. Just back from war on the French front, he and his brothers Ezio, Sante, Manotti and Ricciotti were experienced soldiers. At the top of the mountain, a company of Kaiserjäger, regular Austrian mountain troops, and the Standschützen or territorial army succeeded in their efforts to hold control of the strategic peak. Anita Garibaldi, the niece of Peppino, recalls her uncle's efforts.
At the Battle of Col di Lana, he decided to advance with the command of the Alpine Brigade. I still have the pictures of all this at home.
Io ho tutte le foto a casa.
Ezio Garibaldi, Anita's father, was seriously wounded during one of the attacks on the summit from the Italian side.
He was rescued after lying in the snow in a pool of his own blood. One of his soldiers risked his life by lifting him up on his shoulders and carrying him down to the battlefield nurses.
Portandolo giù dalle infermiere di campo, ovviamente.